Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Picks. And if you wonder why I'm in a little bit of a soft tone, because having some throat issues, and boy, if you have those in this business, you're in trouble. Anyways, first and foremost, I want to congratulate the Florida Panthers on winning their first Stanley Cup in the team's history, 30 years, and they finally got it done. Secondly, I want to wish Coach Bono and his wife a happy anniversary. That is why he is not on the program, but he will be in 2 weeks from tonight. We will not be doing the show next Tuesday night because I'll be up in North Carolina, Greensboro, for that matter, promoting my book, as well as going to the National Sports Media Association Awards Banquet. Should be a lot of opportunities to make some good contacts, as well as see some old friends, and as well as other people. So I will be showing lessons from the microphone out there. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. Hello, my friend. Thanks a lot for popping in. Much appreciated. So with that said, let me go ahead and give everybody an overview of the topics. I'll introduce the crew. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about Adam Schefter. My goodness, why would I bring him up? You'll find out when you listen about why I did. He's talking about a workaholic. This guy's it. And it doesn't hurt he's from the University of Michigan. Oh, Melfar Jr. doesn't care about that part. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. And last but not least, Antonio-Brown. So let me introduce the crew. We'll first start with Travis Holmes to my left. Welcome back, Travis.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Always glad to have you. Football Talk with Bo.
How's it going, gentlemen?
Great. Melfar Jr.
How's it going, everyone?
All right. And last but not least, Jeremy Ballrick, the substitute whenever we need him, and obviously one of the commentators for Fire Up as well. So, with that said, let's get to it. Russell Wilson's record as a Broncos starting quarterback with 11-19. The worst quarterback percentage size since 2021. You have Justin Fields, 10-28 with a 263 winning percentage. Zachwilson, 12 up, 21 down, 364 percentage. And yes, Russell Wilson, 17-27, 386. So my main question about this whole topic is, we're going to start off with Travis. All right. Will Russell Wilson get it figured out in Pittsburgh?
I mean, if there's a team to get it figured out under, it's going to be that one. Like,
right.
if there's a coach that you want, Russell Wilson, as much as people hate on him, and I'm part of people, hate on him, you would be doing him a disservice if you at least wouldn't acknowledge that Russell Wilson is the type of guy who's going to come to work every day. Right. He's going to rah-rah and be that cheerleader. He's going to put in the work, and at minimum, that will buy him some cachet in that Pittsburgh Steelers locker room, because who else does that sound like? That sounds like their head coach. Like, so at minimum, that gets him to a good starting point. He's still going to have to prove it on the field. He's still going to have to put the numbers up. He's still going to have to lead this team. And it's a great situation for him because he's replacing a guy who was pretty terrible at doing it. And in the backup, Mitch Trubisky. Mason Rudolph.
They were all backups.
Yeah, they were all backups. Yeah. So, like, he's in a better situation because the team surrounding him at least might have a little bit more patience for him in that way. Like, they don't have to be incredible. They're going to be a 500 team because that's Mike Tomlin. Like, death taxes in that team going 500 or better. So all that to be said, the place that he's at makes it a good situation for him to have at least a fighting chance. But he's going to have to cut down those sack numbers, that was always an issue with him. Is how would his game age? Because he was always that running around quarterback. He was leading the league in sacks, and he still has led the league in sacks, giving up over the last 2 years. So it's a rough spot overall. But he's going to have that opportunity just because of who he is, even though everyone kind of hates on exactly who he is.
And good evening, Ken Ballrick. All right, we'll flip it over to the other Ballrick, Jeremy Ballrick.
Well, you have to look at one thing that Denver wasn't doing well last year, too, because Russell Wilson wasn't that same guy extending plays with his legs. That O-line was atrocious in pass. Whereas they gave up less sacks with an O-line that looked worse in Pittsburgh. Oh no, we got a hawk Tua in here.
There you go.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Oh,
that's great. But I saw that and then lost my train of thought. But I
Right.
better because he has better weapons at Pittsburgh than they had at Denver. Remember, they traded away Cortland Sutton because he was awful. Jerry Judy's there, and he's good. But other than that, they couldn't get the run game going because the O-line was just as bad as I said. So there's a little better of an O-line there that can produce a run game, which takes a lot of pressure off of your quarterback. So I think he will do better there. And Mike Tomlin, as alluded to, if it's less than 9 wins, he ain't happy.
Okay. That's fair. Okay. Bo?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to watch because should he be better there? Absolutely. The defense is better. He has some other things around him. They were able to get to the playoffs with no real semblance of a quarterback. So in theory, they should be able to go further with Russell Wilson. That being said, that quarterback room is unique because they bring Fields in, and you have Wilson already doing some weird stuff, like trying to put out a narrative where Justin Fields is a receiver. And he has come out publicly saying he wants him to take receiver reps. So that really sounds like a desperation move. Like he's worried he's not going to actually start. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out, but it's going to be fun to watch.
All right, Hawk Tua, I did congratulate the Florida Panthers at the top of the show, but if it makes you feel better, we'll do it again. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers. So that way I have a total of 4 witnesses and myself to say we did address that particular team. All right, with that said, we'll turn it over to Mel.
This is Russell, and I think it's kind of Pete Carroll wouldn't have let him go if Russell Wilson was a part of the solution there in Seattle. Russell Wilson was a part of a great team, and he played a role. I think a lot of people, the let Russ cook and all that kind of stuff, that was to Russ's detriment. I watched him play at Wisconsin, and he the one thing that Russell Wilson is able to do, he's able to extend plays because of his legs. But when you solely rely on his right arm, that's not playing to his strengths. I think he is more of a play action type quarterback and a quarterback that can make good plays to continue to move the chains. But he needs a solid running game and a defense, just like most quarterbacks do. Most of them need to have have a decent running game, some semblance of a running game, and a good defense in order to go out there and to be able to perform at their best, at their peak. So here's an ideal situation for him because Pittsburgh likes to run the ball, and they definitely like to play defense. And they're not asking him, I don't think, even Big Ben, he made a lot of plays. He's able to move around a lot because he was Big Ben, and he can move just enough to extend plays and then make plays with that right arm of his. Maybe Russell will find some of that magic, but again, he's not getting younger; he's getting older. There is an issue with him being able to see in the pocket down the field because of his size, and that's one of the reasons why he probably bails so quickly, is because he's trying to find those lanes. So hopefully this will work out for him. I'm a huge Mike Tomlin fan. Growing up, I wasn't a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And back in the 70s when I was younger and the Steelers and the Cowboys were always playing against one another, you were a Steeler fan or you're a Cowboy fan. And I happened to be a Tony Dorsett fan at that particular time, so I was a Cowboy fan. So, it's been difficult. My uncle's always been a Steeler guy. He's always loved them Steelers. So it's been difficult for me to root for the Steelers, but I do like Mike Tomlin. I like what he stands for. And I do hope that, he's able to, that Russell is able to do what they brought him in there to do and take this team further in the playoffs.
All right, well, I'll say this much, okay? Bo, did you want to add something to it real quick?
Yeah, a thing that will really help him this year is if he can figure out how to like a tight end, because he hasn't done that thus far in his career, but he's going to need to with the Steelers.
He also hasn't had very many good tight ends, though. Like in the later time in Seattle and for the Broncos at all. He didn't have like a top. I would probably argue he hadn't had a top 10 tight end, and the tight end market kind of falls off after you get the top 5 guys anyway. So,
I mean, sort of, because when they brought Jimmy Graham in, he could still catch. They just really only wanted to use him as a blocking guy, and when he was open, Russ couldn't hit him. So he's not a huge fan. He really bought into, I'm the best moonball thrower in the world, and that's the play he looks for. Like, he looks to stretch the field. He doesn't like that dink and dunk pass, which unfortunately, as he slows down, he's going to need to figure out how to use it.
He's like Brett Favre. He avoids the middle of the field. He's actually Trevor Lawrence also. I mean, it's kind of the same conversation at least.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say about this whole thing is this. All right, number one, if he's going to make it, you're going to make it with Mike Tomlin, because we all know how Mike Tomlin operates. And number two, if he doesn't make it, he's going to have Justin Fields breathing right down his neck. So, I agree that, 9 wins, let's face reality. Justin Fields didn't go there thinking he wasn't going to play a lot of games. He's expecting a fair, open competition is what he's looking for. But, again, Russell Wilson, I think a change of scenery will do well, let alone when that change of scenery happens to be in Pittsburgh. So he's got a lot going for him, and I agree about the tight end. Yeah, let's get familiar with using that tight end. But, Justin Fields know that, I understand the starting job at the beginning of the year could be a whole lot different as the year progresses. But that said, we're going to a station break, Candy Ebling. Take over.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune's YouTube channel. If you see a red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed to us. Honestly, I don't know why, but Monday nights we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. That's why we're not talking really the Stanley Cup. Maybe tomorrow night on the Sports Exchange, which talks about all the different sports, we might be talking the Stanley Cup. So tune in tomorrow night, 9 o'clock p.m. But we talk all sports Wednesday nights on Sports Exchange and Fire Up. You never know what topic we might hit up, so just tune in Thursday nights. Wednesday nights, Scott normally does a Motor City Mad Mouse show on nofilter.net. It's a one-on-one interview show where he interviews somebody. You'll have to tune in tomorrow to see who his special guest is. The South Florida Tribune, his publishing company, has sponsored this show tonight. We published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Visionary Leaders. Scott Morgenroth wrote it. George Eichhorn wrote the foreword. Go get the book. Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Google, and Apple. Audiobook coming later. If you listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. Back to you, Scott. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah. So also, if you want to locate me on Twitter /@ Tribune South, gets it done. Well done, Candy. All right. Well, you know what? The guy I know all too well, because we're all in this business, is the guy by the name of Adam Schefter, who, by the way, graduated from the University of Michigan. Get this. This guy's screen time during free agency was 17 hours and 23 minutes. When my wife looked at my screen time today, it was bordering around 6 hours. And you know what? Why do I spend that? That way I know exactly what's going on. I look at everything on all my different sources all the time, so I know what we have to do. So I give Adam credit. I don't know if I can spend 17 hours and 23 minutes, but I can tell you what I did do many years ago, another lifetime ago. George Eichhorn and I did a 6-hour Sports Exchange on a weekend night, 6 hours from midnight until, or 6 to midnight, and then we had like 2 or 3 hours of prep time. 9 hours at the station. It's safe to say we did eat a little bit of pizza, and our voices got to work out that night. But we'll keep it on point, Bo, okay, with Adam Schefter. got to hand it to him for that much dedication, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, that's a long day. That's a long day. I think my longest day is my Wednesdays, and that's, somewhere in that 7 to 9 hours on screen, and a couple hours of prep, whatever. So still a long way from 17.
Yeah, you think? What do you think, Travis? You're a journalist.
I mean, that's pretty crazy though. Like that's much. That's so much. Like I shout out, prayers up, whatever you want to call it, for Shari Mayo, like his wife and his his 2 kids. That is, I can't imagine 17 plus hours. I mean, what was it? 17 and 17 and a half.
1726.
That's right. If you want to see Dad, just tune in.
Like, that's wild. But I know, again, that's just one of the days of free agency. But even if it's not one of those ridiculously hectic days, more likely than not, this is the guy. I mean, Adam Schefter, when you're talking to NFL insiders.
Yeah.
Throughout the first few weeks of free agency, his time, even if it's not 17 hours, is more likely than not, 13, 14, 15, like somewhere in that range. That is wild. And I know that's the job, that's the life, especially at this time of year. But boy, yeah, again, prayers up, shout out to his wife. And they know they've been together for a while, so she knows what this is. But yeah, I'll see you in season, I guess.
Well, let me tell you this, okay? 1723, I should stand to correct myself. But if you really want to, for those of you that are watching the show, okay, take 1723, and if you're a lottery player, you might have yourself a number that might win because you didn't think about it. It was out there for the sake of whatever. Okay, so 1723. And you know what? Let me know if you win anything, and if you don't, it won't matter. At least I'll know that was the number I put here in front of so many people tonight. All right, Jeremy, you got a taste of the draft. Obviously, we don't know whether or not your screen time was as much as your podcast time, which you did a pretty admirable job over at the NFL draft. But what do you think about the job that Adam Schefter, in terms of what his dedication is?
Adam Schefter has been dedicated like this now for the last 10, 15 years. And, during that whole free agency draft and the first couple weeks after the draft, while all the moves are being made, you see him do the car wash daily without being a guest. And when I say the car wash, a lot of people don't understand that, but it's the terminology used in ESPN radio. That's where he goes from one show to the next show to the next show to the next show, till he finally gets to NFL Live at the end of the day. So, and that right there is a 10-hour workday, not including what he's posting out there on social media and everything else. And I've seen him go on other people's podcasts before at the same time, in between appearances on those shows. That guy works harder than, well, I probably shouldn't say.
All right. Well, if you think it's going to get you in trouble, then don't.
Right.
Okay? Well, Jeremy, it's hard sometimes to really compliment you, but you are getting a little smarter anyways. So with that said, now what do you think about Adam?
Well, a lot of heads are rolling over there at the worldwide sports leader, and he's got to continue to show his worth. And they got, which I never thought they'd get rid of, Mel Kiper's running mate,
Todd McShay.
Todd McShay. I couldn't believe that. And, a lot of guys they've let go. But I mean, I think his job is pretty secure. With the unfortunate passing of Craig Mortensen, he's the only insider there now. But I guess he still feels the pressure in which he needs to do something like that. Now, all these guys work. They used to hang around the studio all day long, like Jeremy talked about. I mean, they'll be on one show, the next show, and then all of a sudden their show, and then late night, if something breaks, they're there. I mean, they all put in the work, and that right now they're kind of laying low a little bit. Season's getting ready to come up here very, very soon, and they'll be back at it in full force. But I think I think that's just a testament to him and his work ethic. I think that's just the type of guy that he is. He enjoys what he does. He doesn't really look at it as being work. And I think that, that just shows what the type of guy that he is. But at the same time, he wants to continue to prove his value to ESPN so that, his head doesn't wind up on the chopping block one day.
Yeah, I look forward to the day that Adam's path and mine cross, that's for sure. So the guy's a tireless worker for sure. And you know what? When I hear Adam Schefter said this, or like alluded to, Mel, Chris Mortensen, rest in peace, Chris. By the way, I did meet Chris at a Super Bowl. What a super nice guy. But you know what? I will say, since you guys got on the ESPN thing a little bit, okay, if it were me, I wouldn't pay Stephen A. Smith $25 million that he's asking. No way.
Why?
He's too limited.
I mean, he is their ratings leader, though.
But I mean, the show gets what, 700,000 viewers? I mean, it's not even 1 million viewers. I mean, they're talking about they're number one, but it's not even 1 million viewers that watch that show, is it? Or maybe it is a little bit over 1 million. I don't know. It's not a lot. It's not a huge segment of a market. It's a small market, but yeah, he dominates that market. To pay that kind of money for someone just to talk about, to give their opinion about sports, that's a lot of money. I mean, he needs to go do something else. He needs to go. I think, Good Morning America, or one of those kind of shows, or CNN or something.
Right.
He wants to pay big money like that and talk about something other than sports.
You think
Exactly.
he could pay increase?
Yeah,
You think he could pay increase going to Good Morning America?
Pardon me?
Well,
sorry, you think he'd get a pay increase going to Good Morning America?
let alone the fact that they're owned by Disney.
I'm not saying you get 25 million, but I mean, if you want to try to.
Well, and you know what, Mel? Hold on. This is where I was going with this, Mel. Thanks. Okay. I'm not saying the guy's not worth 25 million. Okay, but not worth 25 million to ESPN when they're offering 18 million. I think this guy here, to me, has the talent and the following to be able to go out there and write his own ticket later on. He really does. He's talked about wanting to do the night show, and all those other things. You know what? If anybody's loud enough to keep you awake, it's him. I mean, my goodness, I'm seeing a throat doctor. Yes, I have my moments when I'm a little bit loud, but this guy has his moments every 2 seconds when he's loud. And many years ago, a couple of years ago, I talked to Bob Lee, and he wouldn't divulge names at all, but he said, you don't have to. I already am, and it's not like Bob disagreed with me at all. You follow what I'm saying? So my point is this, okay? Adam Schefter is worth his weight in gold. Stephen A. Smith should get paid whatever he feels he's worth. I'm not taking that away from the whole thing, but I think, like Mel said, to pay $25 million for a guy doing sports, and yeah, you're right. ESPN employees, what they do is they do get run through 9 million different shows. They're not paying you like for X amount of dollars to do a show. Don't worry, they want to make sure they get their money's worth, and they're gonna make you work for it.
I mean, it all comes down to advertising dollars, though. If the advertisers want to pay for that show, they're going to pay what they're going to pay. So, I mean, I can't really fault them for potentially giving it to them. If that's what the advertising dollars are requiring, you keep that guy happy.
Right. I mean, we were having the conversation about how many viewers it is, but at the same time, for what this niche market is, they are dominating it. Like, to be clear, he is the guy running the show that has 575 million 100,000 attendees of eyes on the screen, basically. So it's like Undisputed's not even close. Like they're not even at 200,000. Like so it's a weird thing. If he's saying I want 25 million, if that's the cost of a house, that's the cost of a house. This is no different than the quarterback conversation. Hey man, the cost is the cost.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. That's an excellent point. I wouldn't know. All I can tell you, I don't see. The only thing I'll say to close out this particular topic is I don't see Stephen A. Smith going 17 hours and 23 minutes of screen time. That guy will try to get as little as he can. Anybody that can make a comment that the only thing I know about hockey is the puck is black, give me a break, really? I mean, come on.
That's all I know about hockey. I ain't gonna lie.
But But hold on. Yet this guy makes it to Game 7 over at Sunrise with the Florida Panthers, right? So obviously he knew how to get to Sunrise and he knew how to pick the game to go to.
But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because the media really is dictating what sports are popular and what sports are not popular.
Right.
You know, when the NHL had that, when they went on strike, that's kind of when the networks fell out of love with them and kind of blackballed them for a little while. I mean, you know, for a minute, I think you can only watch them like on the WB or something. I don't know. You couldn't get them on the main stations. They kind of started bringing them back, but they don't talk about it. They don't talk about hockey. So the media controls.
You blame that on the media?
Pardon me?
And you blame that on the media?
Yeah. Yeah. Why are the Cowboys so popular? Is it because they're a good football team, or is it because that's who everybody talks about?
Oh no, that's because Jerry Jones is part of the the ratings committee for the NFL. So they have to deal with him because they know he's the head of the checkbook for the NFL. That's different.
I mean, they're gonna the people are gonna follow what folks are talking about, right?
Right. Yep. All right. The only thing I'm going to say about this, and Candy, you can put George Eichhorn's comment on it because he put it in there and it's clean. Okay. But I can tell you, I mean, it's what it is.
I can't believe you guys are acknowledging Hawk Tua. Do you guys know the premise of that?
Yeah, right.
We do. Yeah, we know.
Yeah. Okay. George Eichhorn, Aiden Hutchinson and Calvin Johnson got beat by Chris Webber in a Pro Golf Am in Detroit today. Does that make an NBA guy better than golfers in NFL? I'll tell you what, George, none of us are going to answer that question. I'll let you go ahead and come up with the research on this one. All I can tell you is both of them are tall.
I will say one thing. Tom Brady and Peyton Manning made a pretty good duo in that Pro-Am foursome that they made. Neither one of them played golf bad, so maybe just Chris Webber is a better golfer than those two are.
And if you really want to add a little sprinkle to that whole thing, Tony Romo's a pretty good golfer too. So, in fact, he takes that sport seriously. So
you got a D lineman, and you got a D lineman and a wide receiver playing golf against against a basketball player. Basketball players, for the most part, are going to be basketball players. Like they all generally have that same look, that same physique. For the most part, you're dealing with the same type of guy, whether different heights. But you have a quarterback and a defensive lineman. Hey, no. Give me the best punter and the best kicker out here who knows how to golf, and then have Chris Webber go against them. And I think it's going to be a different result. That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, you could have them go against Brady and Manning or Rodgers. Rodgers is a good.
Different body type. They have the body type of a golfer. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there you go.
Calvin Johnson is the size of a tight end, really. 6'5" and 240.
Yeah, dude's a monster.
Well, hey, George, I will nominate. In fact, I'm not nominating you, okay? I'm awarding you for the most unique comment on the planet on our serious show, Inside the Pigskin. Okay. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that because I appreciate you putting it up there. But we have other stuff to move on to, and three of my guys here are already segueing me to the next. Maybe when you have topics coming up and they get to go ahead and read what my thinking is. Yes, we are going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk about their playoff record since the last Super Bowl is 5-13. 5-13. So, meanwhile, I have a feeling Mike McCarthy, this will be his last year anyways. He's probably getting sick and tired of Jerry Jones. And good luck. I mean,
yeah, in fact, that came out in a statement.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I think he sees the writing on the wall. He's done after this year, really, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I think so, too. What do you think, Jeremy?
Oh, Mike McCarthy is so sick of Jerry. He came out publicly over the weekend. That went all over social media. It kind of went viral. And Cowboys fans are all like, what? Somebody's talking bad about Jerry Jones? Yes. Somebody other than the 31 teams you don't follow is talking bad about Jerry Jones within your organization. Go figure. Jerry Jones is the new aldavis, a senile guy that does not know how to pay his team properly.
Yeah, I like that comparison, Jeremy. That was pretty good. He is a new aldavis. Yeah, but meanwhile, he's king of the hill in that league. Whatever Jerry says, he gets it done. So it's pretty hard to really debate that. All right, what do you think, Mel?
About Mike McCarthy. I mean,
yeah. We'll be the 5-13 playoff record. I guess that's one thing I should be able to say. Hey, Yusuf, anytime you want to come back on the show, my friend, you always have an open ticket, man. Thanks for being on.
He's in a tough situation. I mean, he's in a team that everybody talks about. There's huge expectations there that is placed on that team by the owner. They do have some talent, but they're kind of fragmented. Right now, you have some disgruntled individuals or some guys who are acting happy, but probably are a little disgruntled. Like someone like Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
That CeeDee Lamb is not happy. Micah Parsons is not going to be happy here shortly. So he's in a tough situation. They don't have everything that they need. I think they have marquee names, but they need some depth. Zeke Elliott is not the answer at running back. And I think Mike McCarthy does like to run the football a little bit. And that's probably going to be a little problematic for him this year. And if you're going to rely on Dak like that, again, Dak was at his best when he was complimentary to Zeke their rookie years in the league. They complemented one another. Zeke was the bell cow. He was the one that was toting it. And then Dak was just doing enough just to keep the chains moving. When you put the onus on Dak to go out there and carry the football team, you're asking him to do something that he's really not capable of doing. He needs to be surrounded with a good running game, and they need to play good defense. And then I think I think this team would be a lot better off. But because they have an owner that is a media whore, it is very, very difficult, for anybody. They're all, everybody's got their own podcast. I mean, I've never seen so many players, owners, with their own podcasts. And Jerry's never been shy about. There's not a microphone that he doesn't like. And
I know
that's a problem.
Well, amazingly enough, I did have the good fortune of meeting Jerry Jones when I was covering a few Cardinals games over at Sun Devil Stadium before they moved into their new place in Glendale. And when I went up to Jerry all year, talked to him, he was a great guy to talk to. I have nothing but good memories of Jerry Jones. But the one memory I have the most of, I think Jeremy and everybody can relate to it, especially you, Jeremy, was, Kansas City was making a big deal about the Lions not having the Thanksgiving game because they're never any good. So Jerry Jones tells me to my face it was good stuff, Detroit, and I'm going to try to do my best imitation. Detroit will not lose that Thanksgiving game. I'll make sure of it. No way. And so what do you think the NFL ended up doing? They ended up rotating the prime time game. It was great. Sorry, Miss Smith and all those guys. How was my imitation? I'm open for criticism.
It's not bad.
Since I know media whores acceptable, my statement about how hard Adam Schefter would have worked too. But anyway.
Yeah, it's what's been fun about the show? It is amazing how we've stumbled onto other things. Yeah, but you know what? But I think it's good because we're maybe as one door opens, another one does, and that's when you have the chemistry that we have on the show, where everybody's able to interact and fill in. Because let's face the reality. All I did with the Adam Schefter thing was this guy's a workaholic, and then I see Stephen A. Smith asking for $25 million. Not saying he doesn't deserve it. I think if he's looking to get that kind of money, he should get it somewhere else, doing something else that will. Because everything is going towards streaming as well as other networks.
Well, I mean, he has a podcast, so it's not like he isn't doing other stuff also.
Right. No, I respect that too.
But the podcast is successful because of his show, right?
His following.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to
dovetail. That's where he gets his following. So
yeah, but at the same time, Stephen A. Smith could never get away with being on ESPN as long as Adam Schefter because most people don't like him as much as Adam Schefter.
Well, everyone likes Adam Schefter.
There's a lot of stuff that Stephen A. does that really bothers me. I don't care about how nice he looks, how well dressed he is. That's not what I tune in there for. I don't want a 5-minute soliloquy on how nice he's dressed or Shannon's dressed or somebody needs to wear a tie or have a button down shirt. I don't need to hear that. That's not what I want to hear. I don't care about all that. So that does bother me.
But that's the thing, though. Stephen A. is Kevin Hart.
Arsenio Hall and sports talk in sports talk. I don't need the dog pound and all that kind of stuff in my sports talk.
Yeah,
But
no,
Stephen A is Kevin Hart. Like, he is not going to be like that's it. Stephen A is Kevin Hart, and Adam Schefter is The Rock. Everyone loves Adam Schefter. That's
I
who
like
he
Kevin
is.
Hart.
But everybody don't love Kevin Hart. But
Kevin Hart's
they
a
did with him
comedian.
for a short period.
I don't
But he's
tune
a
into
hard
Stephen A
worker.
to get laughs. Kevin Hart's he's a
All I'm
comedian.
saying, all I'm saying is, like, some people don't like Kevin Hart, some people like Kevin Hart, but at the end of the day, they know he works like ridiculously hard, and that's what Stephen A is. Whereas everyone kind of loves The Rock because all Adam Schefter is doing is just giving you all the scoops. He's giving you all the treats. He's giving you all the information you want, and he's not doing or saying anything that's remotely controversial. Generally, normally.
Not just that, but you get him in small little snips, right? Like he doesn't have a 3-hour show. He has 15 minutes here and 15 minutes here, and just like Ian Rappaport, right? Like everybody loves Ian too because it's real concise and it's short, right? They tell you exactly what you want to hear and they keep it moving. Whereas they're trying to fill a 3-hour time slot where realistically, especially this time of year, they are fabricating stuff because there's just not enough news out there to cover.
Well, I watched Undisputed when Shannon was there religiously. I didn't watch Stephen A because I couldn't deal with the buffoonery. I mean, that's just me. I couldn't deal with it. Now Skip has the what can Lil Wayne teach me about football? It's not. I mean, come on now, seriously.
For real though.
So that's problematic for me. That's a problem for me. Richard Sherman and Michael Irvin's on there and Keyshawn. Okay, I mean that's cool, but the show is not the same without Shannon Sharpe. There's no question about it. So I have switched over. In the last year, I switched over and started watching ESPN. But it's tough, man. It's it's not easy for me. I'll be honest with you. It's not.
I literally wait for the YouTube clips of something that is actually useful from the show, and that's about as much of the show as I can stomach.
Well, here, let me go to Orlando Escribano. I like the one thing he does make a whole lot of sense, and I really like bringing this one up. Stephen hating on the Cowboys when I love them. Well, that's true. I don't think there's anybody going to debate you there. I mean, especially with all those redundant clips of those miserable people. Come on, pal. You want to stick it in, but the only time Smith ever shows up to an event is when he has to, I don't know, when he has to go or he's forced to do. How much you want to bet that the network forced him to go to Game 7 in Sunrise, and it wasn't by his choice, okay? And you know what, Mel? I'm going to follow up with what you said. I did take a break from First Take for a while when Shannon Sharpe is going at it with Skip Bayless, and I think Shannon Sharpe has done a remarkable job. I really think he's a heck of a He really does a really super job. Orlando, thanks for bringing that in. So I love all the comments you guys are saying. They make a ton of sense. They really do.
Well, let me go ahead, Bo.
The show that's tough to watch because I've tried to a couple of times is the one with Shannon Sharpe and Ocho Cinco.
I don't watch that.
Man, I've tried a couple of times, but man, Ocho Cinco is rough to listen to.
Yeah, well, you're trying to be nice. I could say Ocho Stinko and you might laugh, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a little.
I've never watched it. I've seen some of the clips. That's about it. I mean, I've never watched it.
I've watched it a few times.
I don't have that. I don't have 100 hours in a day to consume all these stuff.
Listening to Ocho Cinco is almost as bad as listening to AB.
Yeah,
what's that?
Wow.
Maybe.
Well, we will touch on him later.
And I'm with you. I don't have 100 hours, right? So I'm trying to digest as much information as I can, and all of those shows
useful.
Yeah, right. And those shows, unfortunately, don't give you useful information.
Right.
Certainly not in a timely manner.
Right.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to circle back to the Dallas Cowboys just to wrap this sucker in a bow. It's been a quarter of a century since the Cowboys have made it to a championship. I mean, to a conference championship at that. Like, not even the Super Bowl. Just wow. So if you're 26, you have never seen that. If you're 25, you've never seen that. And they are, quote unquote, America's team. Ugh, that's rough. But at the same time, 13 appearances in the playoffs in a row. I mean, 6 of them were in the divisional championship. The divisional round.
Yeah, which also means they haven't won that game.
We're right, but that's not necessarily bad, though. that piece. If you're only saying, hey, you've been in the playoffs 13 times in 26 years, that's that's religiously consistent.
Yeah,
solid above average team. You're right.
Yeah.
So you're just not. You don't have the guys to get to that promised land, or you've had some seriously bad luck. But it doesn't help that your guy is Mace, is Puff Daddy. He's all in front of the camera and just all in front of the news and always in front of a microphone, as you guys said earlier.
Right.
That makes it a little rough when you want to be that guy, but you're also just 500. Or
Yeah, well, you know what? You guys can say anything you want. All I'm going to say is one thing. Okay, I'm glad we've had some fun with this topic. All I can say is 5-13 isn't very good. Period. Slice it any way you want.
Yep.
5-13. So, in other words, are you predicting their record for 2026 when they go to the 18-game schedule under the new CBA?
Yeah. Well, that's a matter. Don't get started with me on that.
Doesn't matter how long the regular season is; it's the postseason they can't play in.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know what? We're leaving it there. I am leaving it there. Don't even get into an 18-game schedule, Ballrick, or maybe what I'll do is I'll send you some Alpo before your next show. Okay, and if you know what that means, you add Alpo to house, and then you know what the number is. Kidding with you, by the way, Chairman. But don't get into an 18-game schedule. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's inevitable because many years ago the USFL did it, and Canada is doing it.
Well,
so, yeah.
It's already been proposed, and the thing was drawn up, and Ian Rappaport did a big report about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. All right, but we're leaving it at that.
Mm-hmm.
We are really going to cut it off there. Well, all right, one last thing I want to get to. So anybody have any final thoughts about the 5-13 mark, Bo? Real quick about Jerry and those guys. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they just find new ways to lose in the postseason. I mean, they are a competitive team, and they have been forever. Even when they were bad, they were bad at 8-8, right? They weren't exactly dumpster fires, but yeah, they just can't close the deal. And yeah, they haven't been in a championship game of any sort. They haven't won a divisional game. So, I mean, until they can do that, I will never trust them in January.
So the Dallas Cowboys are basically Randall Cunningham and Warren Moon and Matt Ryan. That's basically the equivalent. That's the equivalent of those playoff records of all those three guys in the playoffs. Yeah,
or if you want to use somebody current, it would be, well, their guy Dak, Kirk Cousins comes to mind. Just those one-win playoff guys. They just can't seem to get it done. They can get in, but they can't do anything with it.
You had to do it. You had to make me remind me that it's Dak Cousins and Kirk Prescott.
All right, leave it alone, Jeremy. All I know is Dak is expecting to get paid, and we'll see how that one plays out. Good luck. So, we all know that Kirk Cousins is a much better agent anyways.
Philip Rivers is like that too, Orlando Escobar also.
Yep.
Legend at the bank.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Philip Rivers needs it. I guess he's had 9 million kids. He's got enough kids to field a baseball team, doesn't he, Orlando? So, yeah, I get it. But I like Philip Rivers. No complaints. He's a good, honest, hardworking guy who has a lot of belief and faith. And you know what? When you have 9 million kids that you can go ahead and play baseball with, it's not the worst thing in the show. Bring all of Rivers kids here. Hey, so Orlando, if you haven't had an opportunity to subscribe to our channel, please do so. Jeremy does get on here from time to time, and he's a hit on Thursday night, that's for sure. All right, so one more topic I want to get to, and that's this, was Antonio Brown's biggest mistake leaving Pittsburgh and the stability of Mike Tomlin, knowing he's now filed for bankruptcy despite a reported career earnings of $80 million. Okay, you know what, Mel? You were the former player. What do you think?
I'm sorry, you said what now?
Leaving Mike Tomlin, okay, a big mistake, knowing that wherever he went.
Oh.
Yeah. And now his current status is he's filed for bankruptcy after earning about $80 million. That's a lot.
Hindsight's always 20/20, right? And we don't know what the young man was thinking at the time. Obviously, you just look at his history. He's not made very good decisions. And Mike Tomlin was kind of like a big brother to him, I would say, maybe. say a father figure, but kind of a big brother. And I think he was able to protect him in a way. And once it got to be too difficult for Mike to contain all that,
right,
he just threw his hands up and just said, "I'm done with it. God bless you. You know, we ain't gonna fall out, but we just can't hang out." And allowed him to do what it is that he wanted to do. And now you see what he had to deal with for all those years.
right.
And immediately he goes out to Las Vegas, and that blows up. Immediately blows
Right.
up. Right. I think did he go to the Patriots for a minute when Tom was there?
Yeah.
That's about all it was a minute.
And I think something happened there too. Didn't they end up having to let him go because of a situation, and then he goes down to Tampa Bay, and that, you know.
And then,
of course, he had the big blow up, you know, stripping on the football field and running out, giving everybody the deuces.
Yep.
And you know, it's unfortunate. You know, you knew by watching him it's going to have a sad ending, because he's got some issues. He's got some things that he's dealing with. He doesn't deal with reality very well, and it's sad to see, but it's not unexpected. This is what you would expect from somebody who is a free spirit and, you know, kind of, you know, doesn't value money, because if he valued the money, he would have stayed in Las Vegas, whatever he needed to do to get that contract. You know, he thinks because he had a few million that, you know, he made it, I guess, or he had all the money in the world, not realizing that somebody signs those checks that he was cashing. Somebody signed that check.
I want to go to Orlando Escribano's latest comment. We're not going to fall out, but we can hang out. Love that. Good stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, and to your point about not respecting money at all, I remember seeing AB on a show that was about like custom fish tanks that he had put into his house when he was still in Pittsburgh. It was like a $200,000 fish tank that was in his living room. So, I mean, the guy burns through money like nothing else. And then on the other side of it, you know, he's going to the Raiders where he was signing a huge deal. It would have been worth a ton of money. And he just couldn't figure out how to just play football. And so he ends up giving all that money away. Then he goes over to the Patriots for a song and can't even accomplish that. The fact that he got a ring down with Tampa before he lost his mind is amazing. So, I mean, if there was ever a case study for CTE, it has to be that perfect hit, because man, did his whole demeanor change really after that season.
All right. Hey, Jeremy, you know what you remind me of, pal? You remind me of my grade school days, okay, in kindergarten and first grade. I like the way you raise your hand. I'm just waiting for you to give me, oh. That way.
No. I was agreeing with him. You notice I nodded to everything he said.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to see. You got to remember. I'm in a position where I've never really took sign language as a class. Okay, so between these emojis that I don't know, these memes I definitely don't know about it, and now you're number one thing. I'm kidding with you, Jeremy. You know, it is what it is, brother. But
that's all right. You don't really want the meme of the Hawk 2 anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching that. I've had a lot of people in the last week or two try to educate me on memes, and for the last 50-some years, I still don't know how to tie a tie, by the way. And when I do get somebody to pre-tie them, or go to a clip-on, so go figure. Okay, whatever. So, you know, Jeremy, I guess you're right. When the thumb goes up, you agree. When you raise your hand, then it would go back to the past when we're in class. So, all right, guys, you got it straight now. So when this guy comes on, I know all his cross signals. In fact, I like talking with my hands too. Good stuff, Jeremy. Keep it really rolling, my brother. We love having you on because you always find a way to make things interesting. You know, the reason why you're not on the baseball show is because you're throwing curveballs in the football show. Okay, right. So that's okay. Whatever. Just kidding.
But anyway, about AB.
Yeah,
he's exactly right. If you remember right, the reason why the Raiders got rid of him is they wanted him to upgrade to the new NFL helmet, but he became right. Too partial to the one that was dented by Burfict.
That was part of the reason. You know, he had a problem with everything. And what happens when you think you're bigger than the game? They show you real quickly that no one's bigger than the game.
Yep.
For some reason, guys think they're bigger than the game, think they got more money than owners, and think they can, in some instances, they can tell these owners what to do. Now, in some other sports, you might be able to do that. Basketball, they have a little more pull. They can do that a little bit. They can throw their weight around a little bit more in basketball. You can't throw your weight around in football. You don't have a guaranteed contract. There's nothing guaranteed there.
That's
They
true.
don't owe you nothing. They'll get rid of you in a heartbeat. Even if they do owe you some money, they'll get rid of you. I mean, ask Russell Wilson. They owed him a whole bunch of money.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm telling you one thing. But yeah, you're right, Jeremy. I think the helmet thing triggered it, and then after that, it went south from there. All right, so we got Mel, we got Jeremy to chime in. All right, Bo, go ahead, and then we're gonna go with Travis, and then yours truly. Go ahead, Bo.
Well, I started it, so.
Oh well.
Oh,
all right,
so I guess I'm wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
All right. I don't. Yes. All right. So yes, I view these as two separate things, though, and I know we want to view it as one because it's Antonio Brown, and he's that boy's wild. That's a wild boy. And we all know it, right? But I'm gonna view the player Antonio Brown and the man Antonio Brown absolutely could have used Mike Tomlin and the organization and the structure that was trying to protect them, that was trying to be that father figure and or uncle, whatever you want to call it, he absolutely needed that. He absolutely, it is like, it obviously was, he was being sheltered, he was being protected by them. I mean, you could even argue the same thing for his relationship with Tom Brady for the time that he was with him. Like Brady always said, like he was trying to do it, and he was always going to ownership trying to make that happen, and it just wouldn't because the ego involved, the attitudes involved, Antonio himself just being such a wild boy. That is its own thing in my personal opinion. And then we get to the second part of the conversation, which is what Mel was hinting on earlier, which, hey, he didn't respect finances. That's a different thing that happens with a lot of athletes, period. And I don't want to make that an Antonio Brown specific thing because, again, they already know 15 or 16% of NFL players go bankrupt within 12 years of retiring. That's not at 12 years. That's before 12 years. And that's across the NBA having the same issue. And they said, I think there's that's, there we go. Fortune 500. Fortune article says 78% of NFL players face serious financial hardship after retirement within the first 20 years. So that's a known thing for NFL players in general. And I don't want to put that on him in that way necessarily. But also in relation to this bankruptcy, the specifics of it was kind of interesting because this was all about essentially $3 million. He had creditors that he owed, 8 different creditors that he owed, and he owed them about $3 million, just under that. And he ended up filing a restructuring bankruptcy. So they're not liquidating his stuff. They're not making him sell everything. They're going to give him the opportunity to restructure his businesses, his organize everything else, and then come back to the table and kind of get them paid. So in that way, he's not necessarily broke. They're just saying, hey man, you got money all over you got stuff all over the place, and you're telling me you can't pay me, then you're gonna have to reorganize that and come back to the table and find a way to pay us this, or we're gonna have to actually liquidate it and get ourselves paid.
What do they say his assets? His assets are only like, I thought, 50 grand or something like that.
Well, that's what he's claiming though. So that was what he said, but at the same time, he got child support and everything else too. So he's supposed to say the smallest. I mean, this is like the tax code, baby. Like I'm gonna tell you, I got the smallest amount ever. I'm gonna tell you my house ain't worth $3 because I gotta pay taxes on that. I'm gonna tell you the smallest number ever, and they're gonna try to figure out what it's actually worth because he's probably hiding stuff in my mama's name and everything else. Like you know how this game go. Come on, even if you ain't doing it, you know somebody who's doing it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, well, realistically, the only thing I'm gonna say about Antonio Brown. He's had more chances than a lot of guys in the league to get it figured out. And more importantly, if you can't play for Mike Tomlin, you can't play for anybody. Now, let me give you an example here at home. When I had Don Madigan covering the Marlins, I think I'm on my 4th year covering the Marlins, by the way. It's been a good working relationship with them and I. But Tommy Hutton, I'm sure a lot of baseball people have heard about Tommy Hutton, who happens to be our broadcaster, says if you cannot play under Don Mattingly, okay, you can't play under nobody. That's what he said. Of course, Don Mattingly was moved on since. And, Don Mattingly's a friend of mine. I have his number. I call him anytime I need him. But the reality is this, okay? Brown's best shot was in Pittsburgh. I think a lot of guys know when they leave that they're like, even Le'Veon Bell probably wishes he didn't leave there either. But here's the thing I'm going to conclude it with. And I hope we don't have to hear about it for a while. But God forbid when Antonio Brown passes on, I have a feeling that everybody will want his brain donated for CTE. That's what my gut feeling is.
There's no question.
Right.
Yeah. So who was it? Vontez Burfict, I think, who sent him to a different planet. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's no questioning the talent level of Antonio Brown. I mean, let's face it. I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a little fun with this one at my own expense. So I'm in trouble. I didn't play fantasy football very long, only maybe 2 or 3 years. I actually won 2 championships, and I got the heck out of there after 3 or 4 years. But when my sister-in-law got Antonio Brown on her team, okay, get this. She doesn't know diddly about football, and I'm getting torched by a person that knows, as Sergeant Schultz would say, Hogan Heroes, I know nothing. And she still kicks my backside. Then I know I had to get out of fantasy football because I know too much for this particular game. That's why I got out of it. And Antonio Brown was the one who made life difficult for me because I kept pulling my hair out and saying, all right, after a couple of years of this, I'm done with this. So
no, he was a supreme talent. Had he not lost his mind, he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no question.
Yeah.
But with the off the field stuff and then missing years on the back end of it, there's a real question on whether or not he even gets a shot at it.
Okay. So
all right, hey, Travis, you got some information. I want you to bring it out there. I like this information about Brown, so go ahead.
So this is interesting. The more I kept looking into this, I'm like, and after I made the comments about he's supposed to say he has $50,000 in assets because that's how the game goes when you're trying to negotiate these things. This is funny. So Antonio Brown has 3 luxury properties. A 12-bedroom mansion is the most recent one that he has in Fort Lauderdale that he bought for $6.6 million in 2016. Wow. He actually has 3 properties of that same size and at the same size and amount, but he bought them all in Florida. And if you know anything about Florida law, you know that they can't touch your house when you file for bankruptcy. That's just the Florida exemption rule. So all that to say, he owes someone $3 million.
Is that a primary house or is that just housing, all housing?
To my understanding, it's housing, period.
Oh,
so the fact of the matter is he has at least 3 houses that are worth at least in the $6 to $8 million range that he owns. And he's bought one even recently, and he owes someone $3 million. And they know that they can't touch his house. So he's going to say, I only have $50,000 in liquid cash. And they're like, dude, you got all this. Come on, stop playing. Like we obviously know. So that's why I say, I think this was planned. I think this is just a process to get out of the debt. And everybody's clowning him because saying he doesn't have money. And he's going to play the role he's supposed to play to be smart to the bank, if that makes sense.
All right, well, let's go back to the chat room. Orlando Escobar, biggest fumble of the bag, Tyson. Mike Hammer. Okay, well, Mike Tyson still gets.
MC Hammer was a big one. MC
Hammer was a goon. Y'all don't know that dude was the worst of all of them. Like he was a true gangster. Like people don't know his backstory. MC Hammer, everybody thought he was this cool dancing guy. He played that role real well, but that dude was like the dude of all of them.
And it's funny because I mean he was paying his buddies just to be around. I mean it's why he ended up with no money, but. Tyson going basically bankrupt was a huge one. Vanilla Ice actually in that same era.
See, Ice made sense though, at least.
Well, I mean, a lot of guys go bankrupt. I mean, Hugh Hefner went bankrupt a whole bunch of times. Donald Trump's gone bankrupt quite a few times. I mean, it's nothing to be embarrassed of. I think it said something about in 20 years. After they get done playing, that's a long time, man. A lot of life happens 20 years after you're playing, and you certainly aren't living on you're still not cashing any of those NFL checks or spending none of that NFL money after 20 years. I mean, that money's gone. Generally, when you stop playing, you might have a year or 2 of that money. You got to go out there and get yourself a job. But a lot of great businessmen have used the bankruptcy code to their advantage to be able to make sure they're able to maintain things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. Well, Candy's got some more information on this. By the way, before we read it, though, I want to mention one thing about former Detroit Lion Ryan Broyles. I think he was a wide receiver out of Oklahoma. I think he played with the Lions for a couple of years. And but get this, this is really serious. This is good stuff. And this guy was planning for his days after football right away. Was building up a good portfolio. So you talk about a guy who was actually taking advantage of whatever he was able to make for as long as he played. And I'll tell you, from what I hear, Ryan Broyles is doing pretty well.
So you don't get this kind of stuff on First Take. I mean, we're giving you information here.
Right.
That's it. Well, hey, listen, I bring on people who know what the hell they're talking about. First Take, all they do is yell at each other. And you know what?
Exactly.
I already had head issues and concussion issues. You think I want First Take to go ahead and add to those things? No, I would rather sit back and do what Adam Schefter does. All right, play on my phone for 5-6 hours a day if I have to, instead of listening to all that. All right, so Candy, why don't you go ahead and read this comment? You put it up there. Being muted doesn't help you do it.
Florida exemption laws protect equity in your residence up to an unlimited amount. So in Florida, no matter how much equity you have in your home, you get to keep it if you file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. By contrast, most states don't offer an exemption that covers near as much.
Correct.
Good stuff, Steve. Well, I got notes here. One thing about the topics we had, they were loaded. There won't be room for parting shots, and just as well because we were taking parting shots all day long before eyes kept going. We want to thank everybody, by the way, for joining us on Inside the Picks, and we appreciate you tuning in week in and week out. And my goal is to make sure that we have all this information so that you can comment on it. So thank you very much. Without the audience, this isn't fun. Don't get me wrong. I love working with these guys, but you guys in the chat room and folks, to me, make it even more enjoyable. So with that said, now, yeah, again, my closing thought on Antonio Brown is it's a shame. He's talented. CTE is where it'll wind up, but we'll see if we can put it off. All right. Well, with that said, that does conclude this edition of Inside the Picks, but we're not done yet. Travis Holmes, why don't you know what? You have a parting shot about a development that took place in Jacksonville. I want you to bring that up.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations to Duval County. And the city council finally did something sort of right. And I'll say just sort of right. They finally came to an agreement with the city of Jacksonville and the Jacksonville Jaguars came to an agreement to keep the Jaguars in Jacksonville, getting the Stadium of the Future approved. So it looks like the Jaguars will be playing the 2027 season somewhere else, TBD. But they only made small changes, which I'm not going to get into because I know we're low on time. But yes, it was approved by the city council, and all they're doing now is just the NFL just needs to rubber stamp it at their October meeting, and the Jaguars will be in Jacksonville for the foreseeable future. Great time in Duval County.
And on a future show, what I'm going to do, I don't know which one it'll be yet, but I'm going to get to a lot of the stadium developments that have taken place. But this one, obviously, we had Travis on the broadcast, so naturally wanted him to talk about it. All right, with that said, Travis, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, you can get a hold of me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. You can find me here every Tuesday, Inside the Pigskin, and sometimes the Sports Exchange and Pundit. If you're looking for any Jacksonville Jaguars coverage, we have my writings at bigcatcountry.com. I just had a great breakdown of Trevor Lawrence and why he actually doesn't have the turnover problem everyone believes he has, because they just don't watch film. And if you're looking for a Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, we have the Duval Dive, a Jaguars podcast on Fridays, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Trevor Lawrence in a future edition as well. Obviously, what we have up here, I think, is pretty interesting stuff. All right, go ahead, Bo.
Yeah, so you can find me on all the socials at Football Talk with Bo, on YouTube at Football-Talk, Roku 5 days a week. And of course, this weekend on Saturday, be covering our local AFL team, the Washington Wolfpack. So come out to that game and hang out. And then on Sunday, I am coaching at the Jackson Smith and Jigma Pro Camp. So busy week.
Okay, Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, you can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune whenever you need me on Inside the Pigskin, and always on Fire Up on Thursdays. You can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions, and on Roku, where I'm live on Roku 6 times a week and live a total of 9 times a week on my channel. Oh,
Well done, Jeremy. Yeah, you, Ralph, and Candy do a really good job on that show. I try to get on there when my voice lets me.
Yep. And then, of course, you can find my writings right here at the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, where I write about the NFL and the Detroit Lions.
Right. Okay, very good. All right, Mel, go ahead.
Find me on all the social media at Melfar Jr. and then follow what we have going on here in Georgia and also in Detroit at melfarsuperstarfoundation.org.
Very good. All right, Candy, take it home for us.
Orlando, all I'm going to say is thank you. And FTP means for the Panthers win. Yes. There we go. Because I know that's not what you meant, but that's what I'm going to take it as. So the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book last November, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It was written by none other than Scott, the Motor City Madmouth. Forward was written by George Bighorn. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Apple, Google. We do podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can hear us. Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Deezer, you name it. If you see a red subscribe button, please hit it, like us, share us with all your friends. And please, also, everybody's gone on around the room and told them how you guys can get a hold of them or you can watch them. Please go out, watch them. They donate their time to us. We want you to help, spread the word and watch their or read their content as well. If you'd like to sponsor a show or advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. We have merchandise there. Go buy it. Look at the writings of Scott and Jeremy. I take pictures. Go enjoy. On Sports Exchange tomorrow night, we might be talking hockey. You just never know. We talk all kinds of sports. It's called Sports Exchange at 9 o'clock. Before that, go to nofilter.net and watch Scott on his Motor City Madmouth show. You never know who he's going to be interviewing tomorrow night. Surprise guest. Come and see. And then there's Thursday night. We have a show called Fire Up. Jeremy and I are on it. Scott sometimes makes an appearance, and you never know what we're going to be talking about. Ralph, who was in the chat room at one point, he's also normally on. We want to say thank you to everybody for commenting in the chat room and for viewing tonight. Back to you, Scott.
Well, in the eyes of Dick Vitale, everybody that tuned in tonight, you're awesome, baby. I go a little louder, but then all of a sudden I'm losing it toward the end. Everybody was awesome for being on here. Orlando, dang it, Candy, that was for Scott to Ron Burgundy. What does that mean? If that means you're buying a book, good stuff. Okay. And if you are, great. If not, well, you know what, Orlando, it's good to get to know you. Some of your comments were absolutely fantastic. A lot of them were good, but some of them went out there and were above and beyond. So with that said, I want to thank my great crew for being on here. And once away, stay classy, Scott. Well, Orlando, you're classy as well. So that's great stuff. So meanwhile, on behalf of Travis Holmes, Candy Ebling, who's doing our producer, Melfar Jr., Jeremy Volrick, and Bo Crouch, this is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us. And we will be back in 2 weeks as we'll be out of town in North Carolina as I will be promoting the book in Greensboro and attending the National Sports Media Association events dinner. Should be an awful lot of fun. And you never know, you could find some new faces there, but we'll be back 2 weeks from tonight. Meanwhile, everybody, thanks again for joining us. God bless and be safe. And we're all thinking about you. We're a family on all of our broadcasts. And one little tip, tomorrow night on the Sports Exchange, there will be a fair amount of hockey that will be on there for sure. This show wasn't the show to do it, except the congratulations part. So take care, everybody. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll catch you the next time on Inside the Pigskin. Good night, everybody.